Hello, everyone, and welcome to Recovery After Stroke. I'm so grateful you decided to join me today. Whether you're a stroke survivor, a caregiver, or simply someone seeking to understand the recovery journey on a deeper level, I wanted to thank you for being here. Your presence helps build this incredible community, one story, one episode, one connection at a time. More and more people are now discovering this podcast while still in hospital, sometimes just days after having had a stroke. That kind of early connection is exactly what I needed when I had my own stroke back in 2012, and it's why I started this show in the first place. It is also what inspired me to write the book, The Unexpected Way That a Stroke Became the Best Thing That Happened. If you're looking for more insights into navigating stroke recovery, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally, I invite you to take a look and check it out. It's written from the heart and it's there to support you wherever you are on your journey. Today, my guest is Jeff Ryberg, and his story is a powerful one. Jeff had a stroke at 55 caused by atrial fibrillation and alcohol-related heart failure. But thanks to timing, medical intervention, and a moment of clarity, that changed everything. He not only survived, he transformed. In this episode, Jeff talks openly about his long history with alcohol, the signs he missed, the life-threatening impact of untreated AFib, and what it looked like to turn it all around. His journey is one of redemption, healing, and purpose, and I think it will resonate deeply with many of you. Let's dive in. Jeff Ryberg, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Thanks, Bill. Appreciate it.
Tell me a little bit about what happened to you, Jeff.
So about 2.5 years ago, I was feeling kind of poorly, and for a couple of weeks had been complaining about being tired. And I one night I went to the doctor, I think the Friday before I got sick, and they gave me some medicine to get my AFib under control. I had some AFib issues, and went
Atrial
to dinner.
fibrillation.
Atrial fibrillation, right. So I came home, went to bed, and woke up early in the morning. My fiance is a nurse, and I said, "Hey, I'm not feeling good." And anyway, long story short, the ambulance came pick me up, took me to the hospital, and I was in my head. My heart was failing. I had like a 15 to 20% on the left side. So I was had cardiomyopathy, heart failure was kicking in. And they had me on pretty high blood thinners. Heparin was involved and doing all these things. So about a day had passed, and they had gotten me a lot of oxygen and things like that. So the next day, my son was in the room with me. My oldest son is 33, and I had to go to use the restroom. And he got me up out of bed, and he said, "How come you're talking so funny? What's going on with us?" And I had a stroke in his arms as he was taking me to the bathroom. And this is where things get a little bit interesting, is that I had it in the hospital, luckily enough. And at 55, they said I was really young to have a stroke, which I thought I was old at the time, but had a stroke in his arms. What became kind of like to say a miracle was that the specialist that was in the whole area for the University of Washington happened to be in the hospital on my floor, just a couple doors down, working with somebody else. So within 45 minutes, MRI, CT scan, and then did a thrombectomy, 2 blood clots, one on each side of my brain, and got them out. So that led me to, I'm here with you now to talk about my experience and what led up to that, and how fortunate and lucky to be in that situation that I was, to have that procedure. And we can talk more about that, but it was a very fortunate position that every day I'm thankful to be in, obviously.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a pretty intense situation. So tell me about the atrial fibrillation history. When did you discover that that was a thing and that you need to be managed?
Well, I think Bill, had been going on for quite a while. So I think over the years I have obviously had a drinking problem, and that's one of the things that would initially start the AFib. Would I'd have like a heavy night of drinking, and then my heart would race, and I would just probably pour more on top of it, and then all of a sudden, I wouldn't race anymore, and it wouldn't feel it. So I'd been to the hospital a couple of times over the years for a racing heart, and I never really thought much of it. And then eventually, I think as you kind of put the pieces together of this puzzle here, is that atrial fibrillation probably was from alcohol use, the cardiomyopathy from alcohol use. And one of the things that I tell people as I tell the story is that when you're in the hospital and someone asks you, how many drinks a day do you have? And I said to the cardiologist, I have, I don't know, 2 or 3. And he said, are those doubles or triples? And I said, I don't know, maybe. So I said, probably 10 to 15. And I said, oh, wow, that's pretty good. Probably pretty close. And as you drink over the years, you just get used to 10 to 15. That sounds like a lot, but over the course of a night, you just kind of, it is what it is. So I think atrial fibrillation led to my situation that I'm in, or I was in, over the years. And since it's been 2.5 years, I haven't had any more atrial fibrillation. I'm down about 40 pounds. I have a glass of wine here and there, or but it's not more than half one or one here and there. So there's no alcohol. I'm the designated driver now, which never would have happened about 3 years ago. I can promise you that. But I think that's what led to it. And I think as the more people I talk to and the more things I read online, and the cardiologists, the multiple cardiologists I've had have all said the same thing. One of the things that was interesting was I tested positive for the gene for cardiomyopathy. My dad had it. And so they thought that I would never really come out of the cardiomyopathy woods as far as the heart was weakened. And I may be jumping ahead too much here, but as the years have gone on, my cardiomyopathy is in full remission. I don't have any issues with my heart any longer. It's back to beating at 50%, 55%. I don't have any of the blood pressure medicine, blood thinners. All of that has been moved to the side for at least for right now. But I think it's a matter of making the right decisions, eating correctly, losing the weight, cutting out the alcohol. Like I said, making good decisions. But to answer your question, the AFib probably was there for much longer time than I thought.
What was behind the excessive drinking of alcohol? Do you feel, was there a reason for it? Is it something that you just always did, kept doing? Was it to change your the way you felt, or what was behind it?
Yeah, I think it was self-medicating for anxiety issues. I think I'm been a salesperson for a long time, for 30 years. And so a high functioning alcoholic is what I would probably call myself, and most of my people I do stuff with. Is it just, alcoholic sounds like a different person, but a functioning alcoholic means you drink a lot and you're able to perform. And I think a lot of it, you just get stressed out. So you just pour alcohol on it to help, your situation that you're in. And that's that was that for a long time, 30 years, probably.
Just take the edge off. Feels like it takes the edge off, makes
Yeah,
it more bearable.
yeah. Yeah. I didn't take a lot. I don't take a lot of medicine. Obviously, as you hear my story, as I slowly weaned myself off of medicine, I just not a big fan of how I felt on some of the medicines. And so same with, taking pills to calm myself down. That's not really what I did. So I would just pour booze on it, have a couple of drinks. Things are great, but that's not the way to go. Obviously, that had a huge effect on my life, and you change the way you view, getting a second chance is a big deal. So
let's take a moment to reflect on what Jeff has shared so far. From a hidden heart condition and years of heavy drinking to a sudden stroke that changed everything, this experience is a reminder of how quickly things can unravel and how powerfully they can rebuild. If this podcast has brought you hope or helped you feel understood, one way you can support it is by listening through the ads. It may seem like a small gesture, but it helps cover production costs and allows me to keep sharing stories like Jeff's. And if you want to go even further, consider joining us on Patreon at patreon.com/recoveryafterstroke. Your support helps bring these conversations to those who need them most, especially in those early, uncertain days of recovery. Now let's get back to Jeff's story and hear how he transformed his life after stroke, one intentional step at a time. When I've spoken to other people who have been alcoholics and have drank excessively and tried to give up a couple of times, one of the challenges they have is that they'll go through the process of slowing down the amount of alcohol they drink, but then these emotions come to the surface that they've never dealt with before. And that often makes it difficult for the alcohol consumption to stop, because then that was the whole reason they were drinking, and they don't have a strategy to deal with the emotional side of not drinking alcohol, the stuff that's coming up that they've suppressed for years, because they just didn't realize that one of the things that they were going to need to do was seek a counselor and get some support like that. Did you, in your 30 years, had it ever been something that came into your awareness that I should stop this, and then you've put some steps in place to stop, but then found yourself drinking again?
No, I think I just always thought I could control it. I thought I could just kind of work myself through the situation. So counseling was, had been married before, so the counseling I did wasn't for my drinking. I think people would always say, "Hey, you drink too much," and then he just kind of dismiss it like it's not a big deal. But when you have kids, my daughter is 20, and a couple of years she came to me and said, "Hey," she sat in my office and said, "Could you please stop drinking, please stop doing this, I don't want to go through this again." So when you're put in a situation like that and you're afraid, I think people that in my situation, and I would tell anybody that's listening, is that when you're afraid, you'll stop drinking. When you really get afraid to have another stroke or multiple strokes, or you're in that situation, you will stop, and you should stop. And that's what happened to me. Is I think if this didn't happen to me, Bill, if I didn't, it saved my life. And people say, you hear it quite a bit, is that it probably saved my life, because I probably would still be drinking right now. You and I wouldn't probably be talking. That's a Friday afternoon. I'd probably be at someplace having a couple of cocktails. But I think what happened to me was I got a helmet check, and someone said, "Hey, you need to pay attention to what's important to you." And what's important is the people around you. Your son that was in a room with you, your daughter that said please, and your other son. I mean, there's so many signals and signs that people just ignore. And one of the messages I wanted to say was, I want to get to the people before they get to my situation. How do I get to someone to say, "Hey, look, you're given opportunities, and this is one. I got another one. This is another chance." And it's an interesting, because some of the people you try to talk to don't get it, and they hear you talking, they're not listening to you. And I think my message is to get to those people, or my plan is to get to those folks and have them listen.
Yeah, it's a good thing to do. Are you on YouTube by any chance? Have you been commenting on my videos recently?
Yeah. No, I haven't been. Oh, you know what? I had. Yeah, I don't know. I was on there. We looked at them. I watched. We have a place over in Eastern Washington, and we were taking a drive, and we were listening to a couple of them. There was one of them that was about alcohol that we listened to, and I don't know if my fiance commented on it or not. She may have.
There's a comment by somebody on one of my videos. What stroke survivors wish they knew is what the video is called. And what it is about a 9-minute video. And I asked a whole bunch of stroke survivors what they wish they knew about stroke, when they were going through it, that they were never told. Anyhow, the person who commented was Wordsmith Works 3541. I don't know if it's you or not.
No.
Okay, but have a listen to this comment. I just read it 5 minutes before we sat down to record this, and now have a listen to
Huh.
what they're saying. Prior to my stroke, I was, okay, this is definitely not you, a drug and alcohol abuser. I had a horrible diet, was a fat load, and was losing my family. While I understand what Billy's saying about losing the old you, so I'm talking about letting go of that old person prior to stroke and kind of evolving it
Yeah.
and changing it, turning it into a more improved version. While that person understands what I'm saying about that, the old me, he says, caused my stroke. But ironically, my stroke saved my life. I don't miss the old me. That said, I was overcome with crushing guilt about what I did to myself and my family. 3 years later, and things are lighter and light years better. Thank God. Is that
Wow. Wow. That's
unbelievable?
getting chills. Yeah. That is a message that I think you don't get until it happens to you. And just the absolute miracle of how it happened. It could have happened. If you think about, what if I wasn't in the hospital? What if I wasn't in with my son? What if the specialist wasn't there to do a thrombectomy, which is extremely rare to do anyways, to do two of them, and to come out of it with very little or no side effects. I'm Bill. When I woke up in the recovery, they had said I had a stroke, and I said I didn't have a stroke. And they said, yeah, you did. And they kept making me smile, and they kept asking what time it is and can you know what date it is. And luckily there was a clock right behind the nurse's head. Every time she'd ask me, it was super easy. So I'd say, yeah, it's June 23rd at whatever. So I was cheating, but I didn't even know I had a stroke. And I had gone to the neurologist 2 months later, and they wanted to check me out. And the lady said, hey, let me show you your brain on the scan. I said, great. And she goes, here's where the damage is. And I said, what damage? I don't have any damage. And she said, right here, this white stuff right here is the damage from your stroke. And to this, I mean, had no idea. I had no idea. I had gone 3 months after it in recovery. I was fine. I mean, on occasion, a couple little things here and there, but for the most part, I got extremely lucky to come out of this the way I did. I was in the hospital for a week, 6 days, a few days in intensive care, but to come out the way I did, was extremely, extremely, extremely lucky. A
Yeah.
miracle, if you want to call it that. But yeah, it was. It was. It's hard to describe.
So the heart condition, the genetic predisposition for cardiomyopathy, and then that has settled down though. So it was an issue. It has settled down. Has your heart function improved, increased? Is that what you're talking about a little earlier?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, it is. I don't have any AFib symptoms or cardiomyopathy symptoms. It had completely gone in remission. The X-rays or the MRI I did after the fact. I see the cardiologist once a year. I won't see him until probably June. So my 3-year anniversary is June 22nd. And it's interesting too, as I go, you do all the reading I do online, which is too much research. Stroke survivors aren't supposed to live this long. It depends what you read. We're not going to make it 3 years, or whatever. But I spent too much time doing that, and then I stressed myself out. And then my thing is not knowing specifically what happened. I think we know what happened to me. I think we know that drinking probably caused this. Maybe it was a virus. Maybe it was all these things, but not knowing is the hardest part. I see it to my friends all the time. If you had broken your leg and you had to go in and get a cast, you knew that you broke your leg. But when we have a stroke, when you had yours, I had mine, I don't know exactly what caused it. So every time I go out and get a sniffle or I sneeze, I'm like, oh, is this going to be another stroke? So that's the hard part, is do with research on, yeah.
The
So
common thing of what they call a cryptogenic stroke, a stroke that occurred that people don't understand what the cause was, is will it happen again? Why did it happen? Is this another stroke, etc. And what it requires is a little bit of being a little bit of vigilance, not over vigilance, but vigilance, so that you do take the necessary steps to get yourself to hospital, to get yourself checked out, even if it's a false alarm. because I had
Right.
three bleeds from the same blood vessel, and
Mm.
that means I went to hospital 3 times in 2.5 years where it was definitely bleeding. But in amongst that time, I went about another 10 or more times where it definitely wasn't bleeding, but we thought that it was. And it's like,
Oh,
what am I going to do? I'm not going to die wondering. I'm definitely going to get myself to a medical professional where my history is, where they know who I am. And I'm going to
yeah.
go there and I'm going to say, sorry, guys, I know I'm back again, but this thing in my head hasn't been resolved. And
Yeah.
it might be bleeding again today, and I think this is the best place for me. You need to do a scan on my head, and that was it. They would do the scan, and we would work it out. And it I think it's like it's appropriate to be vigilant in this scenario and to think about, is this going to mean that, etc. Get to know your body, understand what it's like, get some
Hmm.
feedback from a medical professional, a scan, or whatever, to ease your concern and to prove that that wasn't a situation you needed to worry about, and then get back to going about your life. Now, you've made some massive steps. All the things that you've done, lost weight, um, stopped drinking, etc., that has significantly decreased your risk of stroke, like dramatically. The numbers are unbelievably in your favor now. Your cardiomyopathy has settled. That's because there's no inflammation from the alcohol that causes inflammation in the
Hmm.
body, let alone in an organ that's susceptible to it, right? Because you have a genetic condition. So that's amazing. So everything you're doing is on the right track. Now, with the alcohol, I wonder, did you go cold turkey? Did you slowly
Yeah.
stop decreasing it? How did that go? What was it like to experience that?
Well, so I quit cold turkey. They had me on a watch. So I was going to have seizures from quit drinking. At the time, for someone like me, I just stopped, and I didn't drink for a year and a half or 2 years before I had a sip of anything, and it was fine. I had no problem with stopping. It didn't make me have any kind of nothing. I didn't sweat. Didn't have any issues like that. So I was blessed to not have any issues that came up with that. But I think just the fear of the unknown, and the doctor that I had, my dad had as well. I had the same doctor, and he had said to me, and I can see him saying, if you drink again, you're going to die of a stroke or another heart failure if you drink again. So this is a specialist, one of the top guys, and I didn't, because I was afraid, and I wanted to stop. I wanted to change my life, and I think um, yeah, most people will fall back off the wagon and get back on and drink again. That's just not going to happen. It's
Yeah.
one of those things where, like I said, I will have a half a sip of this or that, and it's almost like I'm in the game. I get a pinch hit or I get a pinch run, and it just makes me feel like I'm still part of the team, and that's it for me. And that's fine. That's all I need, and that's rare as well. Where most people that are card carrying AA members, they're not going to be able to, you know, have just the one sip and call it good. But you know, great. I mean, I do have that ability. So yeah.
Did you have did you replace it with something? So a lot of people will say to me when they've quit something that they were, we'll call it addicted to, or they have a tendency for addictions, that kind of stuff. They replace it like with
Yeah.
ridiculous
With
gym sessions, and they went to the gym
yeah,
15 times the first
it's
week,
funny.
etc. Well, how did you go about it?
Yeah, just fun. Oh man, that's so funny you said that. Yeah, I took so I love to gamble a little bit. So when you start to pick up other habits, I don't gamble a lot, but we have, a little gambling around here. So I love doing that. But impulsively, I found that after the stroke, man, if I want to buy it, I'm going to buy it. Or if I see something, I'm on it. If I want to, my ability to slow down, those kind of things have just gone in the ditch. And so my kids and everyone thinks it's so funny, all the clothes, I got to buy new stuff. I got this. So we just start buying stuff or gambling or whatever I'm going to do. Um, so it absolutely 100%. I gave up booze for other things, but it's all fun stuff. It's nothing that's going to cause
Yeah,
me troubles.
yeah,
Um, one of the things I thought was interesting was that I don't know about you, but when people say all the time, "Hey, you look fine. You have any issues? You got nothing wrong with you." But at the end of the day, man, I get tired at 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock. When I'm done, I'm done. Or
Mm.
if I go, I don't know about you, you go to the mall and there's a million lights going off, and you're like, where in the hell, right? It's just, and you're normal, but you're not. And so you try to put on this facade that, hey, everything's great, but at the end of the day, you're kind of like, hey, I'm not batting 1,000 right now. I'm trying, but it's taken a lot more,
Energy.
effort than it used to. Yeah.
That's
So if you're
very,
the same way,
yeah, they're very
yeah.
common stroke symptoms, right? So afterwards, fatigue, overstimulation, the lighting, fluorescent lighting in malls, etc., just completely
Uh,
change the way that your brain experiences that. And the noise, the people, just all the stuff going on. It's a lot for your, because it all happens through your eyes. There's a lot for your eyes to process and then your brain to deal with when it's also trying to heal from the injury that it experienced from the two clots that went into your brain, right? So that's what that
right.
is. And the fatigue is telling you, like you said, when you're done, you're done. That's how I am. Like, it doesn't matter what's on the to-do list. It doesn't matter how urgent they are. There is just a time in the day when I hit the wall, I've hit the wall, and there's no going over it, under it, around it. There's just stopping at the wall and relaxing and doing whatever I have to do, and then re reassessing the next day and gathering myself, and then getting the tasks done that were supposed to be done the day before in the new day, and then moving on and just playing that game again and see where it end up at the end of the night. I have nights where
Wow.
at 8 o'clock in the evening, I am completely gone and I need to be in bed. And then I have nights where I can go till where I don't feel like sleeping until 11:30 or 12 o'clock in
Yeah.
night. And I don't really know. I can't predict it. So I just go with the flow. The hardest part about going to bed late is if I don't get enough sleep during the night, is waking up and being a little bit groggy. My left leg is, struggles to wake up. It takes a bit longer to wake up. My left arm, same thing. So that's the only risk that I have is the next day is if I have a late night, after feeling energetic, I pay for it the following day. So
Yeah.
you can't, there's
Interesting.
no balance. It's just like you have a certain number of hours of energy. You might sneak another one in on today, but you're not going to have
Yeah.
that tomorrow.
That is identical. That is exactly my left side. Same. It takes a while to get it going, but once I get rolling, but I will shut down at dinner if we're out with some friends at 9 o'clock, or I can go till 11 or 12 and I'm not tired. Same kind of deal. So it's interesting that you have that same. Was yours on the right side or left side?
Yeah, mine was right
I
side.
said, yeah, same. Yeah, so the bigger one was on the right for me. But and I was had paralysis on the left. So when I had the stroke, my left side was paralyzed, and then when it came out, it was gone, which is I mean, it's I can't. It's
Amazing.
unusual and unusual. Yeah, I was it. I was watching the I don't know if you saw the Jamie Foxx special. I don't know if you've seen that.
I haven't
He had
seen
a
the
stroke.
special. He had some kind of a stroke. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. So I watched that, and his was very similar toward the end, where he was saying something about he didn't realize he had one. There's no way he had one. I didn't, it's similar to my situation where I was like, there's no way I had one. You can't tell you I had one, but it's an interesting to hear him talk about his situation.
Mm,
Yeah, very, very similar to yours as well. So
yeah. So what happened with work? How did you navigate that? Was there a stop work? Was there a transition back?
well, so I'm probably unique. I probably took about a week off from work, which knowing what I know now, I probably would have taken a lot more, but my job is very important to me and I don't take a lot of time off. But that's why when I went back into to the neurologist and said there's damage, I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know and there's no damage, but sure enough, there definitely is. And so it was about a week. maybe a week and a half, and I was still kind of doing emails. I was in the hospital. I didn't work at all.
Hmm.
I think another week, so technically probably 2 weeks overall, but that was it. That was about it. And then I'm back on the kept me busy. But I think maybe that's what helped my brain keep going and stimulating whatever it was. But it was, yeah, unusual, very unusual to have that kind of surgery. And I'm just bounced right back. I said, just was a strange.
When you got back to work, were you full on, full time, back to normal
Yeah,
routine, the whole
yeah,
lot?
yeah. Full time. Yeah, I get to work from home, so that helped a lot. So my customer I didn't go see for a while, but for most time I was just working from home and making phone calls, and no one really would know the difference. I think my work knew I had a stroke, but yeah, there was no special, you know, help on that side. Just jump right back in it. And I think again that probably helped me mentally to just prepare that I was going to be fine. But that didn't take me to probably a year later that I kind of realized as I read through what had happened to me how serious this was. I mean, even when I go back now, that some of the reports on my charts weren't there until like 6 months ago. And then your heart rate's about 50 when you're reading it. And by the time you're done, it's about 100. You go, holy crap. That's what happened to me. That's where I was, right? That's the program that was going on. And having two sides and the doctor, all the things that were going on was a lot. And it's eye opening. And that's when I kind of got more involved. I do a couple of stroke groups a month, which I didn't think was going to be for me. And my fiance said, Jeff, I think this would be good for you to go and talk to these people. But I think it's interesting because I didn't know how much I could help them or how much they could help me. But at the end of the day, it is amazing the give and take on both sides, how much they help me and how much I'd like to help them. And just listening to their stories and all the things that they've done. So it's been, again, it's one of those things where it changed my life. I wouldn't be getting to meet the people I get to meet with, and it's a treat.
Silver lining.
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to share, on how much more time we got, but
Heaps.
I wanted to share another one of these. I like to say a miracle. I wasn't sure why it happened, but I was at a football game, and this guy came. I was sitting kind of by myself in this huge stadium, and this guy came walking up the bleachers, not up the steps, up the bleachers, and he sat down right next to me. And he said, "How you doing?" I said, "Great." And he said, "You know these teams?" I said, "Yeah, this my neighbor's son plays for one of the teams." And turned out he was a pastor at a local community or somewhere around their town. And we talked about, our kids. And I said, I learned my lesson about, calming down. I had a medical issue. And he said, I know you did. And he said, I know you were given a second chance to make an impact. And I don't know who this guy was. I've never met him before in my life. And he said, you're given a second chance to make an impact. And we talked for another few minutes. He got up and left, and he came back and he put his hand. He said, I just want you to know you need to make an impact. And he left. So my thing that I would want to share is that someone wants me to do something and reach to people to say, you can do this. If I can do it and I can recover and I can get through with very little or no effects to this, and you can quit drinking and just be a better person as far as the choice that you make, anybody can do it. And so anyways, I thought I'd share that with you and whoever's
That's
listening. I think it's a miracle. It really is.
It's
It's
just I just can't my head can't wrap itself around that type of a situation. You go and you sit down somewhere like it's almost random and
Yep.
you've been
Yep.
through all this stuff and then there's this person and then they say these words that you've never heard another human being in your life say to you
No.
and they seem to have an insight into your soul that they just possibly can't and then they
Yeah.
just lay down some wisdom on you and then they just get up and they just disappear like it's
Well, he sent me I think on my phone, he wanted to send me something to read. It's, if you don't mind, I can just take a minute to read this. But I think it's important that somebody that doesn't know me, that just came and tracked me down and sat next to me. Could have sat anywhere. There was nobody around me for 50 feet, but he found me out, sat down next to me, and dropped this on me. So somebody was trying to get my attention. And he said, it says a life that matters is ready or not, someday it will all come to an end. There will be no more sunrises, no minutes, no hours or days. All things you collected or whether treasured or forgotten will pass to someone else. Your wealth, fame, and temporal power will shrivel to irrelevance. It will not matter what you owned or what you're owed. Your grudges, your resentments, frustrations, jealousness will finally disappear. So too will your hopes, ambitions, plans, to-do lists will expire. The wins and losses and once seemed important will fade away. It won't matter where you came from. It won't matter whether you were beautiful or brilliant. Even your gender, your skin color, or your will be irrelevant. So what will matter? What will matter is that not what you brought, but what you built. Not what you got, but what you gave. What will matter will not be your success, but your significance. What will matter is not what you learned, but what you taught. What will matter is every act of integrity, compassion, courage, or sacrifice that enriched, empowered, and encouraged others to emulate your example. What will matter is not your competence, but your character. What will matter is not how many people you knew, but how many people felt the lasting loss when you're gone. What will matter is not your memories, but will the memories that live on for those who loved you. What will matter is not how long you'll be remembered, but for what. Living a life that matters doesn't happen by accident. Now, this is what I was believing in before this person sat down next to me, but to hear somebody send that to me just randomly is not by accident. And I was raised religious, and I believe in a lot of things, but when things like that happen is, I think, almost miracle type stuff that got my attention. And that's why I'm here. And one of my friends from the stroke group, Scott, said, "Hey, Jeff, this you and Bill would hit it off. And I think this is where you need to get your message out to." So
I agree. 100%. I love hearing that story. Let me lay something down your way as well. Let me give you another bit of an insight. So you've heard of post-traumatic stress disorder. We all have. Most people know what it is. It comes from many different events in life. What's traumatic for one person may not be traumatic for another. But we hear about it spoken with veterans a lot. But it doesn't. You don't have to have been a veteran to experience post-traumatic growth. It could be just anything that you experience trauma from, right? So anyway, there's these two guys around the late 1990s doing some work in the United States, a guy called Richard Tedeschi and Lawrence Calhoun. They're researchers, and they are into psychology and all that kind of stuff. And they coin a term called post-traumatic growth. Okay, so post-traumatic growth. And post-traumatic growth is something that people experience at the same time that they may be experiencing PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And it happens together, and not one is not separate from the other. They kind of coexist. And post-traumatic growth occurs after a PTSD type event, like a really dramatic event, a stroke, what you saw on the battlefield, a car collision, anything like that. Doesn't matter what it is. And these are the things. For people to be experiencing post-traumatic growth, they have to kind of tick the boxes in these 5 domains. And those 5 domains are, number 1, tell me if you tick these, a new appreciation for life.
Yep, 100%.
Stronger, more meaningful connections with people, increased empathy, and greater sense of compassion, even towards those who have gone through some similar struggles. In other words, the way you relate to others has improved.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Yeah.
Tick, 2 out of 2. Then personal strength, a recognition of inner resilience and the realization that one can endure more than previously thought, leading to increased confidence in handling future challenges.
100%. Yeah, absolutely.
Tick, 3 out of 3. Number 4, new possibilities, the discovery of new paths, interests, or life directions that may not have been considered before the traumatic event, such as career change, personal projects, or advocacy work.
And 100%. Yeah, absolutely. It's just crazy.
4 out of 4. The final one, the fifth domain of post-traumatic growth, spiritual or existential change, a deepened spiritual connection or a shift in beliefs about meaning and purpose in life, which may or may not be tied to religious faith.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, all of them,
Yeah.
all of them without a doubt. It's I don't wish anybody to have a stroke, but to be able to get the opportunity to appreciate the things that I didn't probably before that was right in front of you. I like to call it a helmet check, and I got a couple of them, pretty good ones. And someone wants me to get a second chance at doing something, and I will not waste it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Fair
it's
enough.
it's definitely it's definitely yeah, definitely changed.
And tell me about the family unit there. Who lives at your place, or you
Yeah, so
guys?
I've got three kids, two boys and a girl. The two older ones, 34, almost 34 and 31. And then daughter's 20 and she's graduating this year from college. So yeah, it's just my fiance and her two kids live here, and then my other ones kind of live outside the house. Yeah.
It was your fiance on the scene back then, a couple of years ago, when all that was happening? Was she
Yeah.
around? Did she know the old version of you?
Yeah, it's funny. She goes to all my, yeah. So definitely, she's a NICU nurse, so she's used to taking care of the little babies, which is perfect for me. I worked out fantastic. So she knew. I mean, she just had me, called 911 quickly, and she knows that there's something different as she kind of goes through and says, "Hey, he's." Especially we've got to leave and go someplace. She's the first one to say, "Hey, let's get you out of here. I know you're tired or whatever." So she's picked up on a lot of those things. I'm a really bad patient. I'll be honest with you. If she was here to tell you that I don't take good direction. I don't take medicine very well. I don't follow the rules very well on some of those things, but I think maybe that's helped me survive this thing, right? As I've kind of do it my own way a little bit. But yeah, she's been there every step of the way. And I'm another absolute blessing that I had her to be there to help me get through this, because it's not easy for the caregivers. I got to tell you, as I watch some of the other folks that they're just as into it like we are. I mean, we had the experience, but they're experiencing it with us. And I'm not sure which one's harder, because she's got to put up with a lot. Traveling, having to go someplace, we miss out a lot of things because it's difficult to kind of do some of those things that I used to do. But we're getting there. It's a process. I got the opportunity. I work out a couple times a week, and that helps. We do that together, and keeps the activity going. And yeah, very, very fortunate. So the quality of life, my home life is very lucky to have that as well. A lot of folks helping me. And when I told people I was going to do this, they're waiting to get to see it or figure out how to watch it or whatever. So there'll be a cast of thousands, I think, trying to see what this looks like.
When
So
you were you drinking alone, or did you have a team of people that you did the drinking with?
kind of both. I think more towards the end, I was probably by myself. And a lot of people would say I don't drink alone, but I had no problem with that. I think particularly towards the end, and I wouldn't even count. I'd count to 10 or 12, just mix a drink with vodka, and I would just sit there, and I was fine. I wasn't never really drunk. Most people would say they never saw me drink so much I was drunk, but I would definitely, in both situations, my friends, we'd like to go to watch the games and do whatever, but mostly, it was kind of a combination of both, unfortunately.
With your friends, what's that like now? A lot of uh, stroke survivors who have stopped drinking struggle with reconnecting with friends, because the whole premise around the friendship was let's go and have a drink, or let's go and get
Yeah.
drunk, or and now that person who doesn't drink anymore, uh, it makes it uncomfortable just because they say they don't drink alcohol for the rest of the people that drink alcohol, and
Yeah.
like, it changes the dynamic. How did you find the dynamic with your friends change or stay the same?
Yeah, they're all been pretty good to me. It's more me than it is that side of it. They have all been very helpful. They wouldn't let me have drinks. So even if I wanted to go have a bunch of drinks, they would take it away from me. They don't push it on me. No one's saying, "Hey, let's have a couple." And they get it. They want me to be around. But I think for me to go to a bar, unless they've got gambling there, then I'll go and I have fun with that. But um, no, it's hard. I mean, I got about 2 hours in me. Most football games are 3 hours, so it's hard for me to go there and sit there for 3 hours as they're drinking pitcher after pitcher. And I'm the one watching how much they drink. I'm like, oh my God, they're gonna have another one. They're gonna have another beer. And that was me. I was the one that was grabbing her to say, let's get a couple more going. But so they've been great. I've been very lucky with that. Good group of friends. Haven't really lost anybody as far as that. I don't go to the bars as much. I mean, because it's not as much fun anymore. I mean, to sit there
Yeah.
and do that. But I'll have my soda water and lime. The
Yeah.
place I used to go to frequently, I'll show up now and they'll bring out the soda water and lime, and they know that I'm not drinking. So it's been nice. And so if I can keep the same kind of routine, I feel somewhat normal, if that makes sense. And
Yeah. Yeah. You feel part of the action, but not partaking
yeah,
in the things that are not good for you.
no, and yeah, the drinking and driving, that's not an issue, which that took me a while to get used to. Jump in my car and think to myself, oh, I better be careful driving home. But now I'm like, I'm not having any drinks. So it's,
Would
that's
you
kind of
have
nice.
driven under the influence,
Oh,
do you think?
oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's another one that was just not a good life choice.
Mm,
Was very fortunate that I didn't get myself in some trouble with that. So that was, um,
yeah,
yeah, so that is a thing in the past. But
really
yeah, no,
fortunate.
my friends have been very good, and my family and my kids have been very understanding, and never an issue with pushing on me.
Yeah. You know those online purchases that you made, has there been any regrettable ones that you thought later,
No,
what did I buy that
no,
for?
man, it's you know what it is. It's just clothes. If you go to I have the same in my closet. I don't know what it is. I'm gonna have one of those. I gotta have a blue one. I got whatever. So my kids like, dude, stop buying stuff, man. You got more of the same clothes. They're all blue or gray or whatever. I couldn't wear them all, but I was an extra large. Now I'm like a medium large. I'm kind of all my clothes are too big. I look like I'm wearing my dad's stuff. So
Yeah.
almost 40 pounds is a lot. And most of it was in my gut. If you see pictures that, I mean, it was just so that in itself, being able to be healthy and be around for my daughter to have her dad there is walking down the aisle is a big deal. I
That is
would,
a very big deal.
and like I said, I want to get to the people that were me 3 years ago and say, hey, here's what it looks like. If you want to see what it looks like to have a stroke, I invite you to come to one of my groups because not everybody is in the same position I'm in or you're in. Some are affected a lot more and they're not
Mm.
able to do the things that we get to do.
Yep.
It was a matter of just how it worked out. So if you take care of yourself now, you won't be in that situation later. So
Yeah.
that's my message.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Prevention is the best medicine. I mean, if you can get through to people to, stop doing some of those behaviors, that's, I mean, that's the ideal scenario. That's exactly what you want for them. But it's not always easy. Do you reckon there was any hope of anyone getting through to you in any way, shape, or form until you had, like beforehand, if you had never had a stroke? Do you think anyone could have gotten to you and said you're drinking too much, or you're doing this to yourself, or you're making yourself unwell? Did you feel unwell?
Yeah, I did. Towards the end, I did. I started getting a little bit like tired. I remember mowing the grass and then God, I was kind of tired. I walked up the stairs and I was kind of tired. I'm like, that's weird for me to be that tired. But, people would say all the time, hey, you need to slow down a little bit. My family would say, hey, you have another drink. Or I'd argue with my fiance or my kids. And it was always like a little, maybe a quick trigger but now I don't have that as much, right? More calm and relaxed and things aren't as big of a deal anymore. But no one probably could have reached me as far as making me stop drinking. I would have come up with a reason to. But I go into AA meetings, things like that. I haven't done that. I haven't done any of those things. Probably should stop in, but I think at the end of the day, I think I feel pretty good where I'm at. Unless I could help somebody else while I'm there, I would be happy to go to a meeting and talk to somebody else on why I stop. I have a lot of friends that are in some similar situation that I talk to, but people have to kind of find it their own way. And I don't want to tell them, preach to them about you need to quit. I just want to say, here's your options. that's what it looks like over here. And, you know, I'll help where I can. Yeah.
Yeah. It is a little bit like that. I mean, I don't think anyone could have told me to stop smoking before my strokes or drinking or anything like that. I wasn't drinking excessively or smoking excessively, but I was doing a little bit of both. I wasn't eating well. I was probably too stressed at work, not sleeping enough. Just the stock standard things that people do. And this blood vessel of mine that burst was always probably going to burst, but I didn't make it harder for it to burst. I made it easier. I created the perfect storm around it so that it can burst. It's a blood
Mm-hmm.
vessel that I was born with, which is faulty from the beginning. It's called an
Mm.
arteriovenous malformation, and I just didn't know it was there. And and then after the stroke, the first one, the first bleed, I was like you. I was like, well, I don't want to be the cause of the second one or third one or any other one, and I don't want to not be here at 37. I definitely want to be around. So I'm going to do everything I can to avoid it, even though I couldn't avoid it because once the gene is out of the bottle, it's
Yeah.
pretty hard to put it back in. And then and now even now, like in the last probably 12 years, 13 years, maybe I've had 10 drinks in total.
Huh. Huh.
You
Yeah.
know, and,
Yeah.
and I just can't do it. It makes me feel like I'm having another stroke. So there's no point. There's
Yeah.
no point.
Yeah. No, I met a guy that had a stroke, and he said he has one or two drinks, he feels like he's a mess. And that's the same with me. If I have one, it's not the same. It's
Mm.
just it's gone. That thing of it is gone for me. So, did you have headaches and stuff when you were having your situation? Did you know that you were having a
I had a
this is
pretty
just
obvious signs, like my entire left side went numb
oh
over a week. So it started with my big toe and then it
yeah
kind of crept up as the bleeding increased in size. The numbness crept up from my big toe to my foot, then to my calf, then to my knee, then to my hip, then up my chest, and then my entire left side. It took about 7 days to get there. And then, but I was ignoring it the whole 7 days, other than going to the chiropractor to tell him, I think I've done something to my back. You need to sort out my
yeah
spine. And the chiropractor said, well, there's nothing there. You need to go to the hospital and get that checked out. I argued with him. I didn't want to go that Friday because we were working the next day. It was going to be a big day. And then I came home. My wife said,
yeah
What did the chiropractor say?" And I said, "Oh, he said I should go to the hospital." And she said, "Well, what are you doing here?" And I said, "Well, I can't go to the hospital. I've got to work tomorrow. If I go to the
yeah
hospital now at this hour, I'm not going to be out of there for hours." And anyhow, she said, "Well, I'll take you to the hospital. They'll check you out. They'll tell you there's nothing wrong. Then you can go to work tomorrow." I agreed with her. I thought that was a great idea. And then, of course, when we went there, they did a scan and they said, "Oh, there's a shadow on your brain." And
oh
it made complete sense when they said there's something wrong with your brain when they said it. But up until that time, the numbness, the last thing in my mind was that there's something wrong in my brain. Now, the chiropractor didn't say it, but he knew there was something wrong in my head.
oh
But he didn't say those words. He just said you should go to the hospital. And when I went
oh
there,
wow
yeah, they confirmed it, but they didn't know what it was. They didn't know if it was a tumor or a blood vessel or what. They had no idea because the blood was in the way and it was not allowing the scan to pick up the issue. And
oh
it took some time to work out what the actual issue was. But yeah, man, that was the start of February 2012. And that whole situation went on for about 2.5 years until November 2014 when it bled for the third time. And then they said, we've got to take it out now. You need brain surgery. There's no getting around it.
they took it out. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
And that's, and
That
now,
makes sense.
and, and that can't do anything. Since then, that's completely gone. It cannot cause another stroke. Um, but that hasn't stopped me from feeling like I might be having another stroke and I go to the hospital. I've still been
Yeah.
after that
Yeah.
because
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you have to ease your mind. And then after the surgery, because blood vessel was about 4 centimeters in from the ear near the cerebellum after the surgery. By the time they get through 4 centimeters, a couple of inches of stuff of brain matter, they've caused a little bit of damage and they've nicked a few things, and that's left me with
Oh,
permanent tingling, numbness, sensitive skin, weakness on my left side. So that and tightness in the muscles, like they're cramped or like I've been to the gym and worked them out.
interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. I read your book. I read the fur. I'm about a third of the way through your book. I think I did read about you kind of waited for you have your own business, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think I read that part. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fascinating. That's amazing. I yeah, I wonder. That's interesting on some of the stuff that's going on with mine as well. If I had to maybe nick something as well, but huh, that's fascinating.
Well, thrombectomy
Absolutely
is
fascinating.
invasive. They're pretty serious procedures. And when people go
Yeah.
into your brain and take stuff out, there's always stuff residual that leaves you. That they leave behind. A little bit of inflammation, a little bit of damage, a little bit of whatever. And there, you're definitely experienced post-stroke symptoms and conditions. 100%. You definitely are, and
Oh,
that's
yeah.
all related to the conditions that you went through. The fact that your heart is back online and all that kind of stuff, that should be the sign for you, right? That should show you what's possible in recovery, like how things improve, get better, start functioning better. It might be a bit slower in the head, but there also might be some permanent damage in the head that you can't get around, but
Yeah.
you can create the environment around that damage to support it so that not as big as
Yeah.
it's not as impactful in a negative way. And that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm trying to support everything around that damaged area to just
Hmm.
function as optimally as possible so that
Yeah.
the deficit uh, is not playing a big role, even though it is playing a significant role. Um,
Yeah.
I'm curious, actually, now that I thought of it, how quickly did your condition improve after you stopped the alcohol? So with the heart condition, how quickly did that settle and you started to see real big improvements?
Within like 6 months. So by the time I think when I had the stroke in June, I went back in November-ish for another I did another MRI and an echo. And at that time it jumped back to 50%. So I was at 15 to 20% on the left side, which is really low when I went into the hospital. And then this first time I came out, first was at 50%, and now the last one was at 55. So I'm back to 100% normal. No damage, no scarring. It was pretty bad shape going in. Uh, I remember the ambulance driver looking down at me, and she goes, "Oh, that doesn't look very good." And he's like, "No, that doesn't look very good." I'm like, "Well, hey, I can still hear you guys. What doesn't look good down? What doesn't look good up there?" But I knew it was in bad shape. But what's interesting was that I was on such heavy heparin for maxed out on it, couldn't have any more, and then to even throw a couple clots after that, and a large vessel on the right side is why he had to go get it. And for him to be there is you had to have two of the specialists there to be able to do that. And I don't know
The
what it
heparin
could have
played a
been.
massive role in decreasing the damage
Oh,
there for sure.
oh,
Yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so I did a good job of slowly weaning myself off of the baby aspirin I'll take on occasion.
Have
But
you done that in conjunction with your medical professionals?
yeah, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So that was just
Okay.
it. So I think part of the issue, Bill, too, was I had three cardiologists, I had several neurologists, and you could ask, each one would give you different answers. Some would
Yeah.
say, yes, that sounds great. This one says no. This one says maybe. If they'd all say the same thing, I would have taken it. But one would say, maybe take a half, or maybe don't take any, or so they were all very inconsistent. And so eventually got to the point where I just would listen to the one that was going to kind of go with what I liked, and then it worked. And so as I got better over the year and 2 years, and now I'm going to 3 years, I don't take, knock on wood, I don't take anything right now. And so against most of the doctors would, some doctors would say you should be on something. Other doctors say you're fine. If it's not causing any issues, we're good. So um, I don't know. It's one of those things where if you, I got way too many doctors. I think I wish I just had one, I guess, to be
Yeah.
honest with you.
Yeah. You
Right.
know what they say? I think there's an old wise saying, if you got one watch, you always know what the time is. If you've got two, you're never quite so sure.
That's exactly it. Yeah. Yeah. So yep. I'm
That's
definitely
all good.
learn as we go.
It seems like you're working it all out slowly. You're kind of ironing out all the crinkles and you're making
Yeah.
progress moving forward. So that's great. What's the hardest thing about stroke for you, do you feel? Is there something that you can isolate and say, well, that's definitely the hardest part of it?
I think the hardest part is probably people just not knowing that everything's not okay. Things are not as they look. And unfortunately, I like it to be back to normal and be able to do the things I used to do all the time, which I'm about 95% there, probably 90% there, but I'm not quite there. And it's just, that's the hardest part, is it what it looks like is not necessarily what it is. And I think more people I talk to, and the other thing too, probably is, I think about it is, there's not a lot of support after you have a stroke. There's no place to go. So when I got out, I'm like, okay, now we're going to set me up with the doctor's appointment. For them. They just kind of say, good luck. I hope you make it. Things are great. Join a couple clubs. That's it. And so one of the most recent people on my stroke group is a doctor. And she said, I don't even know where to go. I don't know what to do next. I had this, I'm recovering. And who do I talk to? What am I supposed to do for a follow-up? There isn't that.
Wow.
Right. So there's not, you could take anti-seizure medicine, you could take this, you take that, you want to, which is sometimes you need to take it, but I think the hardest part is not knowing what happened and why it happened. And, where do you get help at and how do you do it? What's next? So, I mean, yeah.
We've spoken about a lot of aha moments or things that you've come into your awareness, etc. Is there one thing you can pinpoint that stroke taught you?
Um, yeah, it taught me to kind of slow down a little bit. And I think everything was always at Mach speed, right? I got to do it faster, quicker, better. I got to, how much money can you make? How fast can you do this? And at this point, I'm looking to ready to retire possibly and do different things and slow down and, hopefully have some grandkids at some point that I'm able to do stuff with. And so those are the kind of things that I wasn't really thinking about as much as I do now. Now it's, definitely changed 100% changed my life or saved my life for sure. That's definitely it was a gift and not a gift, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Is there a little bit of insight, wisdom, advice that you want to sort of give the people listening who are like you and me, been through a similar situation, and tuning in for maybe some, I don't know, something they might not have contemplated or considered before?
I think the biggest thing is listen to your body for sure. And listen, slow down a little bit and enjoy the little things in life that you probably didn't. It sounds cliche and everyone's going to say, yeah, for sure. That would have been me 3 years ago. I'd have said, sure. But at the end of the day, I'm just like you. I'm just a normal guy that just happened to, you know, have a stroke, that loves his family, loves his kids. And I want, I would say if you want to be around to enjoy them, slow down a little bit and listen to your body, because your body's going to tell you. I knew what I was doing was causing some issues, and it didn't slow me down until it was too late. So that's
Yeah,
what I would do.
fair enough.
You don't get a second chance like we do. I mean, this was a gift, absolute gift. So
Yeah, yeah. I couldn't agree with you more. Jeff, I really appreciate you reaching out, sharing your story, mate. It is a fascinating story. I wish you well on your ongoing recovery. And yeah, just thanks for being my guest.
thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's good talking to you.
Well, that brings us to the end of this deeply powerful conversation with Jeff. From living with undiagnosed AFib and alcohol dependency to suffering a stroke in his son's arms and receiving life-saving thrombectomy just in time. Jeff's story is a striking reminder that sometimes the wake-up call we never wanted is the one that gives us a second chance. Jeff's honesty about addiction, recovery and healing, both physical and emotional, is something I think many stroke survivors and their families will connect with. His story showed that change is possible even after decades of unhealthy habits, and it's never too late to choose a better path. If this conversation resonated with you, I'd love for you to share your thoughts. Please comment, like, and subscribe on YouTube or leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Your feedback helps others find these stories right when they need them most. And remember, people are discovering this podcast from their hospital beds just days after life-changing diagnosis. That kind of access to support didn't exist for me when I had my stroke, but it does now, thanks to your continued engagement and support. If you'd like to help these episodes keep going, head over to patreon.com/recoveryafterstroke. Every contribution makes a difference. Wherever you are on your journey, know this: you're not alone. And like Jeff, your most meaningful days may still be ahead. Thanks for being here. I'll see you in the next episode.
Importantly, we present many podcasts designed to give you an insight and understanding into the experiences of other individuals. Opinions and treatment protocols discussed during any podcast are the individual's own experience, and we do not necessarily share the same opinion, nor do we recommend any treatment protocol discussed. All content on this website and any linked blog, podcast, or video material controlled this website or content is created and produced for informational purposes only and is largely based on the personal experience of Bill Gassiamis. The content is intended to complement your medical treatment and support healing. It is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice and should not be relied on as health advice. The information is general and may not be suitable for your personal injuries, circumstances, or health objectives. Do not use our content as a standalone resource to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease for therapeutic purposes or as a substitute for the advice of a health professional. Never delay seeking advice or disregard the advice of a medical professional, your doctor, or your rehabilitation program based on our content. If you have any questions or concerns about your health or medical condition, please seek guidance from a doctor or other medical professional. If you are experiencing a health emergency or think you might be, call 000 if in Australia, or your local emergency number immediately for emergency assistance, or go to the nearest hospital emergency department. Medical information changes constantly. While we aim to provide current, quality information in our content, we do not provide any guarantees and assume no legal liability or responsibility for the accuracy, currency, or completeness of the content. If you choose to rely on any information within our content, you do so solely at your own risk. We are careful with links we provide. However, third-party links from our website are followed at your own risk, and we are not responsible for any information you find there.